Hey, good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is the Creativity 202 check-in session for Lesson 2. It is March 7th, 2023. So I'll like you to check in the order I see on my screen. Luke, how are you doing down under?
Yeah, all going good here. Just at the end of summer here, really hot. But all the kids are good, all good here, and going on a 4-day wedding in New Zealand starting tomorrow and get back Sunday night. I hope.
Nice. Jeff, how are we doing?
I'm good. It's warm here as well, probably 80 degrees today and at least 50% humidity. So busy and hot and sweaty. So all good.
Yeah, so just to confirm, I mean, it's not required to attend both sessions, but you're always welcome to. Uh, and there's always something amazing going on. So I didn't want you to think you had to.
I tell you the
that you
truth,
had to get both.
I
Glad
attended
to
the
have you here.
Sunday session. Yeah, I attended the Sunday one because with my schedule, I thought that would be easier. But after all that I learned
Yeah.
on Sunday, it's like your favorite sports team. I just found myself wanting to see what happened.
Yeah, when they're playing, you watch them. I'm with you. Damien, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. It's compared to Jeff and Luke, it's cold here. We have 29 degrees, not Celsius, Fahrenheit. uh, Unfortunately, at home, I have my wife and my daughter are both in bed sick. So not a lot of sleep, but I'll survive.
And Art, how we doing?
Doing good. It's a little cool here in Boston, but not too bad. Winter came back, got a little bit of snow, and the big news this week is my daughter's visiting with me and brought her new golden retriever, Darcy. So we're all getting acquainted.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, we're dog people in my house. Dogs are the best people. Yeah, all good here in Kansas. Yeah, we're in the around 50. I was unusually productive today. One of my old running buddies came into the college today. He had retired from the Army and has been working for 15 years or so for Department of Homeland Security, and he's up here teaching a course on civil military planning for emergencies to some of our military trainers. They are tasked to go out and evaluate the whole of government approach during emergencies, because you have state and federal officials, you have a variety of organizations, public and private, that get together during emergencies, and so these guys are tasked with evaluating Army headquarters, and now they've received the mission to help support there. So he's up teaching the what we call DISCA, the defense support to civil authorities, since he has been a Homeland Security operations planner, but also a medical service corps officer in the Army for 25 years. So it's sure good to see him. We're gonna head out to dinner tomorrow night and catch up on old times. He hadn't changed a bit. It's interesting in the Army. You can go. I haven't seen him for 25 years, and it was just like yesterday. It's Army's kind of funny that way. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into the circle, and then I'll offer up the talking stick for our little testimonies and true stories. And I'm looking forward, as always, to your insights. So here we go. Got to turn on the sustain. And we're off. Luke.
So this week, you could say I went a little bit overboard with the trader exercises. So if I feel like a 10-minute time limit might be useful. Otherwise, I could talk for quite some time, and I don't want to take up everyone else's time. I don't normally talk very much, but when I do, I seem to just keep all the thoughts just coming out of me. And for this week, I have done a Word document that I'll share with you as I talk it through. And I feel like I'm at the point of my trading where this was a very good lesson for myself, because it put into place a lot of the playbook of trading for myself, as Kim will say: plan, prepare, execute, and assess. And I found a lot of those questions. Some of them are during your trading, some of them are assessing your trades at the end of the day, and some of them are also, what's your frame of mind going to be when you're planning your day, and how are you going to have your psychology in mind to make sure that you are executing as you have planned. So what I am doing for myself is going back, looking at my videos from last year for the creativity, working out where I was up to at that point, and added on to this playbook that I've started, with the overall guide of it being plan, prepare, execute, assess in terms of psychology, money, and system. And otherwise, I'll just be a little bit everywhere. I'll have Word documents here, Excel documents there, and try to get very concise into how I'm approaching my trading. And yeah, I'll add on my research weekend 2021 as well. And I've got other work that Ken's asked me to do that's still outstanding. So in terms of planning, I find this, for me, really difficult. I just get up, I go to work out what my execution risk is for the day, what time I've got to trade, and that would dictate the sessions that I've got. And that will then work out which Forex symbols I want to track, but also sometimes at night time here, it's really useful to trade the DAX and also look at the FTSE. So just in terms of planning, I don't really do that a lot. I just sort of get up and just go. So I think that's something I need to address a little bit more. So in terms of prepare, what I've done is some of these quick trading questions I put into where I think I should be asking these questions of myself. What do I think about trading by intuition and feel? I absolutely hate it. I need the rules, and then they'll become into a process. So I'm very process oriented. And if I don't have those rules, I feel like it's just gambling. And I feel like if I put a trade on and I don't really understand what the entry was or the exit was, then, as someone has said before in this book, the outcome of that trade might just be random. But if you're following a system, you've got very defined entry rules and exit rules, then the outcome of 100 trades is more predictable, and then you can study those trades, work out how that system is performing. So we're still in the prepare stage, yeah. In terms of preparing, does it matter whose rules they are? I don't think they are. And in terms of following those rules, my feelings should not get into the way of that system. I feel like, and I would say that word a lot in terms of feeling, in terms of following someone else's system's rules. For me, getting over myself, getting my ego out of the way, and just trading the system from the process that it's been created from. And as Ken has said before, if you've got a new system that you want to trial, do back testing, do bar trading, then do paper trading on a demo account, become familiar with putting on entries and getting out at the exits at the right time, assessing your trades at the end of the day. Then from there, go one share live, and then move on from putting a 25% on, and half, 50% on of an execution risk, and then going on from there. And then if you're following that, then plan, prepare, execute, assess on each different system, and let that system earn its R multiples, and then put that system into the production system from there. I've got a lot of pages, so I'm going to have to skip through a lot, and so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I would say I need to be in a certain mood. I definitely like trading in the morning, which is your guys' nighttime, and that's normally around when the Australian Stock Exchange opens and the Asian exchanges open. So sometimes there's good movement, sometimes there's not. So in terms of getting into a certain mood, I really should just be following the process, and just following the process, work out what the outcome is, and just having faith in the system while I'm executing. So in terms of preparing, it's getting my mindset right for when I'm executing. Do my results create my feelings, or do your feelings create results? At the moment, I feel like my feelings are creating my results. If my psychology is off and I have fear of missing out, then the next trades need to be as per the plan and prepare phase. If they're not, then I might be over trading, and that's something definitely to work on. Other things I need to think of in the prepare phase is making sure that I just think of this every day, that I've done the back testing of my system, I've planned for it, and that makes me more disciplined. I need to meditate, get into the zero state before I start trading, and believe in myself, and believe that I'm unstoppable, and believe that in doing my successful trading, that's the reward of my daily actions. I touched on scout mindset on my research weekend, making sure I'm looking at the opposite side of the trade. Stop hoping that it's just going to work through it, and just make sure that I'm framing it the other way, because the person on the other side of the trade might be framing it from the other side. So making sure that I can stop and reverse, or just get out and reset, and then come back and see what's on offer there. And what else? I did this back in the 2019 research weekend, and I didn't really go into it in a lot of detail. I felt like I was not ready to share it, and I revisited it yesterday, and I thought I would like to see what I was thinking almost 3 years ago, and a lot of the actions that I need to do in the planning phase, during a trade, after a trade, and then at the end of the day through the assessment phase. I think I need to go back and make sure that I've got a full checklist of what I'm actually doing at the start of the day, during the day, and at the end of the day, in terms of looking at the systems that I'm trading, the psychology that I'm trying to master, and the money management that I'm trying to employ every day during the trade. Then also looking at all of those 3 different pillars of trading at the end, during and after the day. And in the prepare phase, the money side of things is I've got 4 bullets. As Ken would say, you've got 4 bullets to trade. If you lose 4R, you should be out of the day. Everyone's mileage would vary. And then from that point, you can just reset, have a look at the charts at the end of the day and then think to yourself, did I do anything wrong? Did I follow the system, or was it just one of those days where nothing followed through? So in terms of the prepare phase, for myself, it's money, there's 4 bullets. And you really need to use them wisely. If there's a setup that's faltering and you can take a 0.3 loss because you're 10 bars in, just take the loss and then just look for the next trade, because re-entry is the key to sanity. In terms of execution, how do I feel after a good trade? This would be the quote that Ken has said to us, and it's in Van Tarp's textbooks as well, is stop being 10 times happy for one trading win, stop being 10 times sad for one trading loss. You should be equal for both, because when you're trading, you should be just executing. And as Kipling's quote in the poem, If, I think it's called, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those 2 imposters just the same. So in terms of execution, the psychology should be out of it, and the system should just be the process and just following the process as easily as you can. And how do you feel after a losing trade? Same thing. No problems if you're feeling something, write it down, look at it at the end of the day, because execution should be the easiest part. You've planned for it, you've prepped for it, get back in the ring and make sure that you are following your checklist for the next trade. And I'll get to that checklist in a minute. Being unbothered after a trading loss really is a superpower, just to be able to reset, get back into it. Where are we? Are losing trades bad trades? Doesn't matter. Who cares? Just get back into it. Just execute. Look at it at the end of the day, because one of the most important things is being able to assess at the end of the day. So Ken said it here. Are your feelings about wins and losses symmetrical? They should be exactly the same. The next trade is just the next trade instead of 1,000. Just keep going. Is it your fault if you lose? Well, I've said it before, in the face of a trading loss, you have 3 choices. Let it define you, let it destroy you, or let it strengthen you. So if you can just keep executing, then you can just keep making sure that you're in the ring for the rest of the trading session that you've dedicated yourself to. Probably what I would say is, do you reset after a win, or do you go for it because you're in the zone? So in terms of my checklist, I would say time, will, pattern, money. The first one to go, as Ken would say, is always will. So making sure that I can reset, and if I've had, in quotation marks, a bad loss, then I would be able to walk out of the office or from home, just walk around, just take a breath in, get some sunshine, come back in, have a look at the chart, fresh eyes, see what it looks like. Just making sure I've got any bullets left, lather, rinse, repeat, and just making sure that I'm feeling grateful that I'm in the position that I can trade. In terms of assessing, reviewing the good trades, reviewing the losing trades, getting back to the same point that I looked at in the execution, just being symmetrical with wins and losses, and just treat it as just one day. Might be a good day, might be a bad day, but whatever it is, it's a learning lessons from those particular trades. What other things would probably stick out? They're very similar questions in the execute phase as to the assessment phase, but the frame of mind is different. And probably the question I'd ask myself in the assessment phase is it my fault if I lost? Well, I can always give myself thanks to myself that I got in the ring, I fought it out, and I prefer to take the entries and exits when they were there, as opposed to not getting in the ring when I know that what I should be doing is following the system as best as I can, and then assessing it at the end of the day. Yeah, they're all pretty similar to what I've said before. And something I do at the end of the day also is look at what the maximum favorable excursion has been on each of those trades. And if they only got to a 0.2 at best and I took a 0.6 loss, I actually gained 0.4 because there wasn't a 1R loss. And if that took 10 bars or if it took 2 bars, then it doesn't matter how long it took. I actually resign myself to losing 1R after I put on the trade. And if I only lose 0.6, then my frame of mind should be actually captured 0.4 of a bullet to put it on the next trade. So in terms of assessing it at the end of the day, if a maximum favorable excursion got to 2R and I took a 0.6 loss, that's when I should be berated in the chat room when I put it in there, because Ken would think, what was your average win? And you've made an average loss. So we sort of need to look into that a bit further. Then there's just some more quotes for myself that I should be looking at in this assessment phase. One really good thing from one of the research weekends was Ken put me on to James Clear's book Atomic Habits, and I'd follow him on Twitter. And if we can look at the inputs of my trading, I find that would be the trade reviews at the end of the day, the chart markups. What are the lessons learned? What do I need to sustain, improve, action? These are the best sources. These are the ones that will impact what I need to do for the next trading sessions in the plan and prepare, which will then lead into the execution phase. And yeah, that's what I've said there. And then what I should be doing is some of these questions I should be putting in to my markups and working out what were the good trades, what were the losing trades, and then assess it a bit more from answering questions as opposed to just looking at the R capture. Because I think a lot of these questions filter in to a lot about psychology, as opposed to just looking at the numbers. Because as an accountant, I always look at numbers, but I never actually talk about it out loud. So I found that these questions are really useful in trying to get a lot of that information out of my head. Because when I'm in trades, I do think of this stuff all the time, but I actually put it down a lot. So now that I'm on TradingView, I'm putting a lot of those comments in there, journaling it, but I need to ask the right questions about myself. I watched the US session on yesterday. I found that quite useful, very useful, really. And I think it was Kuhn who said, what behavior or ritual is the confirmation that you've reset? I find that a lot of the questions that you guys had from that session, I need to ask myself a lot more. And in whatever phase it is, whatever it is, that's fine. But these are the questions I need to be asking myself. And last week I had a bad day. I didn't put the order on. It went for about a 3-hour trade, and then I overtraded on a 1-minute chart. And I did that for about 4 or 5 trades. And then I was able to extricate myself from the computer, walk outside, and just was able to shut off for the rest of the day. But I haven't had the emotional fortitude to go back to the chart to see what I actually did. So that's something on my to-do list. Because I think I lost 3 or 4 hours on that day, and that was just because I was trading through the noise, trading through Crocodile River there. And I think that's probably enough from me. Probably heard enough from this Aussie at the moment, but I found this very useful in terms of sequencing the right questions in the right order in terms of where I am in terms of the plan, prepare, execute, assess of the trading day. So thank you very much for allowing me to take up your time.
Oh, shit. Sorry about that. And now for the tones. I had the chat box over the mute button. I couldn't see that I hadn't unmuted. Damien, was that you raising your hand?
Yes,
Okay.
I know. I
Yeah,
have to
your
put it
camera was
higher.
just a little bit low. I saw the two little ears peeking up like a little coyote, but okay, Damien.
I'm trying to confuse you. No, I'm gonna get my feet wet. Um, I I talked to how can I say this? Last Tuesday night, I talked too fast. I said I had everything under control, and I have nothing under control. Um, to go back to the word greatest unknown, are so the first exercise um, was about I'm trying to read my notes, but I can't even read what I wrote. So the biggest problem that I have is when I have chaos in the day, um, either of becoming creative. Um, I I tend to panic, and when I panic, all hell breaks loose. Um, the second exercise was to take an example of an incident that happened in the past and see what could be done to improve by doing some planning. And I will be honest, I've many years ago, when I started my careers and my life, I started to have plans and I gave up on them because I was never able to find a way to make them uh, come into fruition. And so now I basically live my life with no plans, which is probably not a good thing. And that's the reason why I took this course, to give me the tools that I need um, to become a better planner and to be able to adapt those plans depending on the circumstances. Um, in terms of the trading exercise, you had a lot of questions, Ken, and I'm going to answer them by every one of them by a one sentence, and that's what I came up with. The first question was, what do you think about trading by intuition and feeling? For me, I'm a little bit like Jeff. I'm better for long-term trading. I basically buy stocks and hold them for the long term. Uh, I review my portfolio on a quarterly basis, and if I make adjustments, it's very seldom. Um, how do I feel about trading by strict rules? I'll be honest, I don't like rules. And I'm aware that's something that I need to work on. And earlier today, I had a conversation with Phil and Griffin, and they're going to help me setting up mostly rules to be able to reduce my losses, because I still don't have a full understanding what that means in my mind. I know it has to be done, but maybe I'm overcomplicating things. The next question was, does it matter who rules they are? At this point, I answered no clue. And the reason I did that is because I got so much information in my head that is so confusing that I'm trying the best way I can to forget everything that I've learned about trading for the short term and reprogram myself to become a better trader. So the next question was, do you have to get into certain moves to trade well? I try to calm myself down before the day of the trade. The trading day comes by doing trading exercise, using the tool that Ken suggested that I get a few weeks ago. It helps in some ways. The major problem that I have for now is because I don't know how to breathe correctly. I tend to choke by doing the exercise. So that's a work in progress. And I'm sure once I'm able to manage that, my trading will be a lot easier. The next one, do your results create your feelings, or do your feelings create your results? At this point, my feelings create the result. And I'll leave it at that for now. The next one was, how do you feel about your trades? About your good trades, I feel awesome. I'm on top of the world. The next one was, how do you feel about losing trade? I feel terrible. And because I feel terrible, I do what I would call revenge trading to make up the losses. And by the end of the day, it ends up being a bigger disaster than it was at the beginning. I've become better at it, but I know there's a lot of room for improvements. The next one was, are losing trades bad trades? Most of the time, yes, because I don't follow the plan. I don't really have a written plan. My plan is in my head. But the biggest problem that I have is my brain is telling me to anticipate the market, and I end up doing what I would call bias trading, either waiting for confirmation on the trade. I jump into it, and the next candle goes the other way, and either getting out right away, I believe I'm right, and 99% of the time I'm not right. When I do have good trading trades, they are because I follow the rules, like I did this morning. And this morning, I can put a pat on my back. I got one winning trade, and I said, I'm shutting down the computer, and I didn't trade for the rest of the day. I wanted to, but I forced myself not to do it because today I did not want to give back profit. Are you feeling about wins and losses symmetrical? Now, I'm not really going to answer that question because I'm not too sure what you mean by that, Ken. So I'll leave it alone for the time being. The next one was, what about your favorite excuse when you lose a trade? For me, it's always the market. The market is never doing what I want it to do. I have a green candle. My brain is telling me it's going to go up for the rest of the day, and starts going against me, so it's never my fault. I'm just being honest. What's your most satisfying reason for losing a trade? 99% of the time, it's lack of preparation. How to frame a trade in advance. I've never done that because I don't know how to do it. And I'm having difficulty at this point trying to anticipate what I should do before the market opens. So that's something that I need to work on. After a loss, do you want to trade more or less? 99% of the time, I want to make back the loss. So I get into revenge trading, like I stated earlier. I will skip the next one. What do you mean to reset after a trade? Maybe Ken can give me some pointers of what he means. What does the zone mean to you? It means to be relaxed so I can think clearly. Can you study statistics on how to trade based on how you're feeling? I have never dealt, until I've been with Ken, with statistics. I have a math background, so it should be easy for me, but for one reason or the other, it doesn't compute for trading. I know they're necessary. Maybe it's because I'm lazy and I don't want to do the work. That's probably what it is. So, aho.
All right.
I'll go. So I'm playing catch up, but happy to be here. Had a very busy couple weeks, and like I said, I'm behind on the lessons, but my schedule moving forward is returning to normal, so I'll be back on top of it. But one of the things I did want to share was, like last night, as I was going through that the 16 simple truths, and I was really struck by. I thought they were amazing, but the ones that really seemed to resonate with me is how much fear impacts my ability to try something new, and how much I seem to be tied up mentally and not wanting to fail, and having my outcomes being successful or perfect. And I know, like, those things don't. Those are things that I need to work on and kind of release. I definitely get the sense, and I just love those truths, because it seemed that once I can embody all 16 of those, I think I'm just going to be in a much better mental state and just flow with things a whole lot better. And I love the part on courage, and really want to just work on embodying that. So I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to doing the lessons and working and just improving on myself. So thank you.
Bill, go ahead. Compose your thoughts. Still have Jeff. You're not under any obligation, Jeff, unless you've also prepared some things since Sunday. But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and do mine. So my work in progress this week, and really today, was has to do with the giving of advice inside true story circles. Because yesterday morning I was listening to a gal who's a business coach who has done some good work in emotional freedom technique with tapping. And that's where you have an intention in your head or discomfort, and you associate that discomfort with a location and then the source of that. And then the guide or the coach says some things or has you repeat some things or you repeat some things, whatever, if you're doing it solo or whatever. And then you physically tap on an acupressure point. And then by focusing on that and the sensation, it sort of takes the energy out of the discomfort. Then how do you feel about it? And then if that discomfort was associated with a source of blockage, like I can't get moving or something like that, then the physical tapping then creates a positive loop, which allows you to process. So she's done some work with that. And her little session had, 5 magic code words or code phrases that help people get through standard blocks with 5 typical emotions that are causing blockage, like anger, frustration, dissatisfaction, some other ones. So I started thinking about that and she was offering this deal where she has a script to follow so that as the coach, you always know what to say and you're always kind of in tune with the guided path that she's laid out. So I started thinking about that as a practice that maybe I want to add that skill. And I immediately started comparing it to the underlying principles of true storytelling and true story circles and protreptic coaching, which is a style of ancient Greek coaching that goes back to Aristotle and Plato and is very non-prescriptive. It is offering a guiding light, if I can say that, to the person who is doing the self-coaching, and it's not deterministic in that sense. So it's quite a different approach. And so I sent a note to my spirit guide, Mike Three Bears, is a Lakota medicine man, and asked him about his experience with vision questing, which what Mike does in vision questing is very close to true storytelling. Or the other way around. True storytelling is close to what Mike does in vision questing. And I asked him about the role of the guide and the amount of preparation or direction that he as the guide gives to the quester. And he puts them out in the desert on a mountain with bears and coyotes and rattlesnakes and and they have no food and water for 1, 2, or 3 days and nights. And so I was asking him about how he saw his role in that process as a guide. Did he ever find himself, giving advice to the other person or prohibiting them from going or pulling them in early, and just to get his sense of how he did that, because I really trust his approach in finding the right sacred path. And he sent me a reply, and it was in my trash bin or my spam folder, and because I was looking for something else. Now, I check my spam folder once every 6 weeks if I even think about it, but I felt a need to go look at that today, and his reply was in there for no reason at all. And it was a really long and thoughtful reply, and it helped me make some decisions about if I wanted to do anything with that emotional or emotional freedom technique and the tapping and all that. And while I was waiting for Mike's answer, I'd also gone out and done some research on, what's the actual science behind it, and what does WebMD say about it, what does skeptics say about it, and all that. And so it got me thinking hard about, the role I'm trying to adopt in our true story circles, where this is not just a non-denominational coming together and we're just talking, true stories, although we are. There's also a chunk of material that I have prepared that you guys want to learn, and that you've taken me on trust that the process we're following is going to help you acquire that information too. And so both of those values, both of those are important to me to be able to somehow walk that line in between and including the principles of true storytelling, and also that of being an honorable, ethical teacher, in the way that I conceive of teaching as being like a gardener. The gardener doesn't make the plants grow. You can't make them grow faster by pulling on them. I want to stretch the corn by yanking on it. So in that sense, I adopt the mindset of Mencius from China, who said, you can't the plant is going to grow, but there's things that you can do to set conditions to give it better odds, or to improve the soil, keep the varmints away, water it properly. And so but there's a certain limit to what it is that you can do, and then that's all you can do, and then the plant's got to do the growing. And that really resonated with what Mike Three Bears was talking to me about his role as the custodian, guardian, holder of trust in the Vision Quest process. And that's kind of what I see as my role in the True Story Circle. Like when Damien asked me some specific questions, I wanted to say some answers, but I'm not going to until we get out of the sacred circle and into the coffee talk, because it's important that only the true stories are told and listened to deeply while we're in that space. And I wanted to say things about how he ended his story and where he ended that story at that I wanted to, I'll give him some insights after we get out of the circle. I wanted to say those, but I had to remember, hey, where are you and what's your role and what are we trying to achieve in that little soap bubble moment? Soap bubbles are very fragile, except that they exist and they can go through turbulence as long as the surface tension is equally distributed and it's stronger than the external pressures, and so they can float along happily until something in the agreement is violated, whatever. So we got to remember that the True Story Circle has some of that tension in there too, that it is as all group efforts that are bound by voluntary agreements are fragile in the sense that, they're made by humans. So we got to remember that. So anyway, that gave me a reminder to wait until the proper time to answer Damien's questions and give him the insights I want to give him. And so that's where I have been this week, is thinking hard about that. When do you give advice, and how much do you give advice, while at the same time being true to the principle of traders are autonomous free agents with agency and responsibility. At the same time, when you're climbing on a mountain, you don't let a guy step into a crevasse if you can see it, So I'll answer those questions that you had, Damon, and I'll give you some insights later from my own lived experience. And the final thing I would say is that one of the things that we sorted out in the last cohort and on our Saturday morning chats with the Work in Progress gang, that we've all sort of learned that even when you're giving advice, and even if you're not in the true story circle, you don't give advice, but even when you're out in coffee talk, we find ourselves, instead of telling people, we end up just relating stories of what we've learned from our own lived experience to stay true to, own your own experience, be the authority on what you've lived, and share that story and let them draw the inference. So it's an interesting path to walk when you start trying to represent only your own stories. It changes the way that you look at how other people are asking for help and what your role in giving help is. And so that's just a continuing work in progress for me. It's one I've been thinking about because my mentor, Boji, is now that he's defeated cancer using true storytelling circle healings, unbelievable. He actually attributed a lot of his healing to the Monday morning circles that I was hosting for a while with our friends like Mike Three Bears. So there's some power in these circles. But now that he's beaten cancer, he's looking to amplify true storytelling in the world, and I want to help him do that. So I'm going to be in a position where I do more of these circles for people outside of the trading arena and in corporate America and whatever. So thinking about how to do that in an honorable, ethical way is my work in progress. So that's where I've been this week. And for Bill, yeah, I used the Rizuku Momentum group this morning to spend 3 hours on the book. So I've broken through the ice wall barrier. So we're making progress. Got another session tomorrow to do. So the ship is slowly turning. So that's my story for this week. My my question and answer session with Mike Three Bears and his always helpful guidance to me. And somehow it fits. So I hope. William?
So I will do kind of the dichotomy here. Had so the first intro, and I apologize for being late. Playing single parent today to soccer and dinner and yada da da da. Here I am. Thank you for allowing me in. So I'm going through this for those that don't know, the second time through. So the first two questions in the trader exercises 02 says, what do you think about training by intuition and feel? And how do you feel about trading by strict rules? Well, I believe that the strict rules are an absolute must because there's so much variation in the market itself that if you are haphazardly trading your own rules, you're just you're floating down Crocodile River with your hands in the water and cuts on your hands. And intuition and feeling, I think once you strictly bind yourself to the rules that you trade, and I want to hit on that in a second. Today, I could not get anything going. So I just stopped. The intuition was, hey, you're out of sync. Stop. So I did. And I put it away, and I don't feel bad about that. You have to be able to do that. I think trading by the rules allows you to start feeling the secondary feeling, which I've been trying really hard to help Ed, my accountability partner, with, is embracing. Once you give yourself over to the strict rule set, then you can start to feel the humanness out there in the market underneath the strict rules. and you can once again allow your humanness to become an edge versus something to be contained and controlled and quantified, and you can start letting that become free again. And most of the times when I'm trading with him and helping him, he's like, well, I'm here and I'm looking at this and I'm making good money and I don't know. I said, sell, get out. And he'll argue with me a little bit more. He's like, get out. And what I'm trying to tell him, I'm just trying to vocalize what he's already vocalizing to me, which is what his intuition is telling him is to get out. I don't tell him what to do, per se. I just speak out into what it is that he's already. I empathically feel that he is already feeling. So another big parallel between my brother and I is going out into back out into the nursing world. I've just made it a mission to speak the truth, no matter what, regardless of the corporate, because there is always a corporate structure involved in healthcare. No matter how much I would like to think we're all good at, hey, let's do this for the good of the patient, but there's always the money behind. But I made a vow to myself when I went back, I would just, hey, I'm not doing that because that's not the right thing. That is not the truthful thing to do. And it's having an effect on the people around me. So I see a positive effect on the people around me. And my new bosses, they are appreciating my fresh take on things, which is, okay, well, these things that we're complaining about are just the money and the da 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 da. Let's take care of the patients first. Make a note of the things that are bugging us on the business side, and then deal with those when it's not time to take care of patients. So that's good. I reading through the rest of the trader exercise questions. I don't think that there is such a thing as a good or bad trade. And what I've been trying to teach Ed, and I've been trying to teach some of the students, is if you can ask yourself the question, have I done everything to make this trade follow my rules as best I can? Did I do everything? If I left nothing to chance on my rules? Yes. If you can answer yes, then the market simply presents you with what it's going to do. And you keep following the rule set, log it, put it down, go to the next trade. When you're out of the trading session, that's when you look at whether you did well or not. And again, I go back to the 10 lost trades in a row, but then ended up being plus 15R by the end of the day. It is just statistics. And rather than being a slave to, oh, well, I'm going to watch this go all the way to 1R loss so I can prove that the rule system, Ken talked about it last night. No, you don't go all the way to a 1R loss. When the monkey starts screaming, pay attention to the monkey and go, okay, you know what? I'm going to give in at 0.7 or 0.8 because the last 2 points are just not important. So once we can get to the rule sets and the rigid structure, then you can start painting your feelings and empathic part to your trades, and you'll be that much better. Sorry to be circuitous in my speech, but that's the way I am. Oh.
Jeff.
Yeah, like Ken said, I checked in on Sunday. I think I just showed up today mostly to hear the stories. But I wanted to thank Damien for stepping up last week when I made the request and become my accountability partner. So first time ever on Friday, we had a session and talked about our week and what went right and what went wrong. So that was great. And I wanted to thank Bill. Last week you quoted Marcus Aurelius and you said, if you're not going to use this stuff, why do you learn it? I think that was instrumental in propelling me to actually, try to use this stuff. And then Dan said something last week about children having fluid intelligence and older people having crystallized intelligence. And that just brought a vivid image to my mind, and I wrote it down, and I thought about it a lot during the week. But it's almost like through our culture and through our structured education, we create these structures in our mind, and they're really designed to protect us from various things. But they also, those walls may protect us indeed, but they keep us from seeing out. So through this course, I think, some of my walls have fallen down, and it's not a bad thing. And then I had another aha moment during exercise 2, where I realized my sister and I are both left-handed, and it's kind of difficult for a left-handed young person in a right-handed world because most tools and techniques are developed for right-handed people. So you struggle in the beginning, and then you figure it out, but you get to learn things twice because you get to be instructed the right-handed way, and then you have to either adapt or figure it out left-handed. And over time, I think that's actually an edge. It makes you think about things more than just one way. So that led to a lot of insights. But thank you guys a bunch. I think mainly I just came to hear your stories today. So I hope.
All right, I'm gonna hit the tones in another round here, and what I want you to do is to be listening for the focus word that's going to come to your attention as you reflect on the stories you've heard and the reactions that you were noticing, and the things that happened all this past week, and what your spirit guide is telling you to take forward into the week ahead. So listen carefully for that word. William. Unmutify.
Repurpose.
Luke.
Word is trust.
He's Damien.
reborn.
Art.
Courage.
Jeff.
Believe.
Guardian. All right, so that moves us into coffee talk. We got a few moments here, plenty, 10 or 15 minutes at least. Hey, so what I'll say to Damien is, you know, how to frame a trade is there is a little half-page standard framing questions that we use, and get with Phil and Griff to have them give you that little snapshot. It's basically, what do you see? Which way do you want to trade? If you had an urge, which way you're being pulled, I want to trade that way. Where could it go? Where would it stop? If it stops, would you trade it the other way? If you traded it that way, it stopped and then reversed back into your primary direction, where would you re-enter after an exit? And then the second set, part B of that, is after a winning trade, which means an average win or higher, that's a noticeably winning trade. Then you would say, where do I preserve the gains? And then it goes also through, would I stop and reverse that winning trade if it goes the other way? Not always. If I did, where would I re-enter? And so it's a series of focusing questions. And what it does is it forces you to describe exactly what you see and not what you feel. It makes you calibrate your vision and anchor it to very specific indicators of price. It makes you estimate ranges and movements and identify decision points. And because you end up framing the trade in both directions, it helps to take some of the emotional sting out of the trade, out of the urge. You take the urge to trade and you use that energy to do the due diligence of framing the trade in a standard way in both directions. In the same way that anxiety is nothing more than alert that something important is approaching, and here's the energy for you to do something about it. If you don't have anything to do or don't know what to do with that anxiety, then it just turns on itself and becomes a little Tasmanian devil eating you up from the inside. So anxiety in that sense is simply the mental energy that we generate because there's something coming. So if you feel anxiety and you don't know what to attribute it to, then that means that you need to improve your sensors. You need to improve your situational awareness. In the 5 ways of knowing, head, heart, gut, hands, and feet, the knowledge of the head is the rational conceptual piece. The knowledge of the heart is the knowledge of what your true purpose and identity and goals and outcomes are. The knowledge of your hands is the knowledge of how to do a thing with skill. The knowledge of your feet is the knowledge of how to do that every day, going to work efficiently, getting it done, and bringing home food to feed the tribe. Well, the one I skipped over there was the knowledge of the gut. The knowledge of the gut is the emotional fear focus, which is the pessimist in us. It's the early warning system in our space that says, yeah, Mr. Know it all in your head, and Mr. Know who you are with your heart, and Mr. Skilled with his hands, and Mr. Walks long distances with his feet. Just remember that the world has tigers in it. And the
bears.
tiger sees you before you see the tiger. So the knowledge of the gut is the one that sort of senses at that boundary, where is the uncertainty? What is it? Is that thing close enough that if there was a tiger, he could be on me before I react? So it allows you to, how far away from a bush do I have to be so that when I detect the tiger charging, I have a chance? So we're not trying to control the fear or prevent the fear or disrespect the fear. We treat the fear as a gift, and you want to do something with that gift. Put it to use. Use it for the energy that it represents and the warning and the early alert that here's something that's important that we need to work in a skillful way. And so that's all that is. If there's more things to be afraid of than your ability to take effective action, then you've overcomplicated the task. So we need to neck that down into just the next step. And that's always preparation and trade framing and see what you can see. And I like what you said, that when you have a really good trade and you just walk away from the market so that you can sort of bask in the glow. That's a good thing. And you want to generate that feeling a lot. And when I say reset, I'm talking about the same thing when you got the, a blue screen of death on your computer, or your phone is running slow, or we got a, whatever it is. Reset is nothing more than, the animal sprang the trap and stole the cheese. So we got to reset the trap. We got to reset our practice. We got to come back to a zero state and regain our balance and our proper stance and posture, mentally, emotionally, physically, skillfully, ready to act intentionally from a strong base. So that's what I mean by reset. And we'll learn how to do that. I have a process that's geared to you, that is meaningful and which is rewarding and which is so powerful and simple that you can't even not do it, because it's so satisfying just to go through that process to be ready to work. If you listen to the Sunday morning session, in response to Jeff's story, I spent some time talking about the importance of making a statement. I am ready to work, period. That is my reset. And then the next thing I always say is, let's go. Because I want to put that into action. So for me, whatever process I use to reset, it ends with the declaration, the affirmation, I am ready to work, period. Let's go. Because I have to put that readiness into action, or I'm just, I've got the potential energy. I want it to be kinetic energy. So what I wanted to say in the sacred circle, the urge that I felt, which I noticed and then just filed it away and let it go for the moment, was to say, when you ended your series of answers to those questions, you ended with the last answer to the last question. Now what I want you to do is say, and in all future lessons, aho to all that, now what? That was all the prep work, and that was setting the conditions for the moment when actual work is going to be done. Answering those questions wasn't the work. That was just assembling all the little sticks to build your little hut, right? So what's the next step? You're ready to work. Let's go. Now, what what does a reflection on the work that you just did? You're starting that second loop of learning now, of reflection. Having just answered those questions in a certain way and noticed to yourself what you had, like 2 or 3 questions. What does Ken mean by reframing? What does he mean by reset? You may have noticed, or maybe didn't, the questions I asked were tricky in the sense that I asked you to, what do you think about feeling? How do you feel about thinking? How do you think about thinking? How do you feel
Feel.
about
Feel.
feeling? So those two dichotomies, there's 4 different relationships in there that we got to explore. That somehow puts into context the fact that we are both thinking and feeling animals, trying to do work, among other things. So you should come out of that with a list of of required tasks, things you got. I got to get these questions answered, and I want to reflect on what I think about and what I feel about the experiential effort of answering those questions. What thoughts came to mind as I just kind of chew on it and take a walk and listen for the thoughts to come in? What are the observations? Don't hurry those. Let the little questions bubble up. That's how you encourage your subconscious to talk to you, is by creating a quiet space and open-ended time space to invite those thoughts to come forward. They'll be like little bunny rabbits at first. If you don't normally naturally do that, is this your little subconscious? Is this what I'm supposed to say something? Am I supposed to tell something to the executive agency up there in my head? I'm just the little knowledge of the gut. I'm just the little knowledge of my hands and feet and heart. Oh yeah, you got those guys all have a voice at the table, which can be dominated by the voice of the head or the knowledge of the head. We got to create space to listen to all the members of the team and figure out what are the things that need to be done, and what are the do outs. So you got to get those questions answered. You got to reflect on those. You got to jot those into your action book somewhere and decide, of all the things that you've now figured out that you now got to do, what's the next task? And then use your little personal Kanban system to minimize work in progress. Pick the most important thing, crush it, next, and keep going. So just keep working off the next most important thing, in order to maximize production. So we've always got to, after all of these little experiential exercises, we got to pause and reflect. And what does it mean? What do I think about it? What else do I need to know? What is the uncertainty? Why did he put those in there? What surprised me about those questions or the exercise? Because in other ones, they won't be questions, they just may be exercises. What were the unusual places I visited? What was the aha moment? What surprised me about how I felt? All that kind of stuff. And then when you've done that, go listen to some of the other people and their stories, and you end up getting the second round. So that's what I want to say about the best use of these experiential exercises. It's like in basketball, the and one. You got to continue to the bucket. And you get fouled, you got to continue, take the shot, and then get the extra, 3-point play. And one. I'm ready to work. Period. Let's go. What's the next thing? So that's what I wanted to say about that. Aho.
Those little Word documents for everybody there. I think reviewing that is my take on just basic, if I were learning, this is what I'm putting into the sniper sets. is, what I am asking my students to do from the beginning. They might help you, Damien, ask the questions of Griff and Phil. It'll be written. It'll make more sense because it's more the way they speak than I usually speak. If that makes sense. And as far as what I would have you do with Ed and I is I want to know from you because you have more experience in options trading. What are you looking for from a options trading system? I don't expect you to answer the second. Say, this is. Just tell me what you think. I don't expect you to do that now, and I'm not ready to take notes. But another take on framing. Basically, what I do is I'll range stat in my head. I put a range stat, hang it on the low of the day when I'm looking at the OR3. Now I already know that there's going to be 10R. I don't expect to get 10R every time, but when I put it up there visually, I have a target. Okay, I can get so it gaps up and takes. If it gaps up and takes 8 of those, or if I hang my gap up there, is it really gonna, go those other 8, or do I have enough left to actually frame the trade to go with it? Statistically, the answer is always yes. So but more importantly, when you're trading those things, hang a range stat out there. If you're like, man, this gets to this point and you're happy because you made like 4 or 5 or 6R or something, you're like, man, I want it to keep going. I want it to keep going. Without fail, whenever I feel that, I go, oh, wait a minute. Put a range stat out there. We're at 0.9. Okay, I can't expect this thing to go to 10. 85% of these won't go there. So I remove that little defeatist end to my good string of trades. That can be really helpful. Just something from me to you.
You can hear
to everybody.
You would have heard me talk about that last night. Yesterday when I terminated a bunch of swing trades in the metals.
Yeah.
Because on Friday they had done really well, and I didn't even want to hold them over the weekend because I felt like, man, it's already the abnormally good move and it's approaching the 10-day high, and the metals have been on a tear. So I waited to see Monday, what do we got? And it started as soon as they started failing. I couldn't wait to get out of them with a great sense of relief, and selected Alcoa to be my measured short position to carry overnight. And today it was down 7%.
Yep.
And so part of that is just knowing is when I feel really, really good about trades and I feel like telling somebody, I automatically know that's
time to get
the
out.
monkey in me talking. And so I just say, thank you. And then I go and measure and find the reasons and apply the rules and reduce risk. So that's what I mean about those the 5 brains, head, heart, gut, hands, and feet. All of those are essential for learning how to make that long.
The unspoken law behind there, Damien, as well, and everybody. I'm not lecturing, but is because what happens when I get out? What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I can get back in. If by the act of getting out and listening to that, just harvest all that, feel good about it. Oh, it's moving out again. Okay, I'll just get back in. Don't beat yourself up. I have found it is so much more relaxing and satisfying to harness my 4 positions, take this big chunk of money and put it aside and go, oh, look, it moved out again. 1.
And now
0 pressure. 1. Okay, I'll hang another, bauble on the Christmas tree and see how pretty it looks. Watch it go. Oh, it failed a little bit. Okay, I got another 0.3. Big deal.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
here's
hurt.
some science. Here's some science.
Yeah.
Here's how our brains. Here's how our brains are wired. So we don't actually see the world that's around us. What we see is a representation created by our brains from the sensory input, which gives us a visual and auditory and kinesthetic display that is designed to give us the information that we've needed historically to survive in a dangerous world. So it is a very parsimonious approach to filtering, shaping, and representing the world. So we actually live in a world that our brain creates as an approximation of all the sensory input that's coming in, that's getting filtered and presented to us. And it turns out that we reset that mental map, brain scientists know, about every 1.8 seconds. So every 2 seconds, there is an update to what's going on. And so every time I think, where I get out and then I get back in again because of reasons, I just say, hey, look, 2 seconds ago it looked like that and the right play was to get out. And then it did something and now the right play is to get back in. That's not surprising to me. There is a price level that I know before I ever even got out of the position. There was a price level I already know where I'm going to get back in. I just don't know when that price is going to hit. So let's say you're in a swing trade and it hits your price of 100. So you get out and then you say, the price that's going to get me back in is 101. Now, if that thing took 2 weeks to sell off and monkey around and slowly gain, and then it goes back through 101 and you get in, you feel, oh, awesome. I got back in. I got new information that the trend is starting to resume. And I feel smart because I wasn't exposed to all that sideways choppy action for the last 2 weeks. The length of time that it's spent in the choppy action doesn't matter. You have no way of predicting how long that's going to be. The information that mattered was price went back through 101, so I get back in. So what if you got out of the position at noon and then at 1 p.m. it goes up through 101? You're supposed to get back in because that's the price that gets you back in. What's the difference between it got back through 101 an hour after you exited or 10 days after you exited? Nothing. There's no difference, except it's actually a stronger signal if it immediately goes back through 101 and the trend resumes, because there was no selling pressure at all and the buying pressure came in. It saw that little momentary blip that got you out as a buy on dip opportunity, and here come the buyers once more. You should actually feel better about getting back in sooner, but it's always according to the criteria. Now, when did you know when that was going to be the case? You knew that was the case because as it approached 100 and started to stall, you decided that here's where my stop is, and if I exit and then it resumes, here's the price that gets me back in. So before you even exited, you knew the price that was going to get you back in. You already know that. That's what framing means. That's what the bar by bar workshop teaches in excruciating detail. It just happens to use 3-minute bars, only so that we could get a lot of repetitions. So when you ask the question about framing and all that, that's what we mean by it. That's where it leads you to. Now, this is not the Creativity 202 course is not directly a course on trading, although it is. There's other work that has to be done. But just remember that during so on the creativity lessons, we're really we are in the gym doing mental and emotional exercises to increase our strength to be creative, to do creative work, to get the insights bubbling up. What we do with that energy is then apply it to the open questions that we have specifically about trading.
Mhm.
So just remember that we're not trying to be creative necessarily with trading ideas. We're actually doing military scenarios and stories from Fletcher. I've put in some trading style exercises, but it's those exercises are all really simply designed to reawaken the creativity that is already in you, to build up that endurance and cardio, and then you apply that to the specific things that you're trying to master within the trading domain, like answering the particular questions you had. Now, some of those are going to be suggested by the exercises I wrote, and they're designed to incorporate both long-term, short-term, swing trading, position sizing, psychology, and all that, so that there's always core concepts about what we do from the foundations course and any different styles of trading. So there's always some conceptual pieces that we can be talking about. So that's what I want to encourage you to do, is make sure that in your learning journal you're noting the questions that you got to get answers to. Those are all tasks to be done at the right whenever it's time to do that. You happen to be connected to Griff and Phil, who have done a masterful job of really basic blocking and tackling on Kata 2 and adaptive systems development, so that you can get a working system and you can see those things in practical action. Because I tend to be all over the map. Just
And you're not being all over the
hey,
map.
yeah, go ahead.
But one of the things that I would like to do, and it was brought up by Bill, and I'm going to bring it up tonight because maybe you can give me some insight, so that I can improve, my trading. The main reason I'm using, well, I should backtrack a little bit before I get into the specifics. When my parents passed, I got a chunk of money of X. 95% of it went into a trust fund because I have the tendency of blowing money, so I'm set for a very long time. I took a small portion of that portfolio so I could day trade. To go back to what I told Kent last fall, is a big chunk of that 5% is gone because of stupid mistakes that I did. Now I have a very small capital, which is less than the pattern day trading rule. So to overcome that, I have to use option. It's not really that I want to do it, but I don't have a choice. Because if with an option, the settlement with TD Ameritrade is overnight. If I were to do and trade, let's say, one stock, I have to wait, I think it's 3 days or maybe, 4 days for it to settle, which means that I would not be able to do a lot of trading. I would do 2 trades a week and so on. So I'm relying on the options to do what I have to do, but maybe it's the wrong approach. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
What's
And let me just also say, they're not stupid mistakes unless you
absolutely not.
refuse to learn. When you know what the lesson, when you already learned a lesson, then they won't apply it. And then repeatedly, then it's a stupid mistake. So we don't even have those anymore. The mistake was not in following the rules, and another mistake is persisting with bad rules. So we're going to fix both of those things in time, and we're going to trade in a risk managed way and get on with the maximum sustainable rate of learning. So just get rid of the word stupid, because
the
none of us are smart
self-defeating
enough to make a claim that someone is stupid. When you say someone's stupid, you're declaring that they cannot or will not learn in the future. Really? You know that? Nobody knows that. So you're not allowed to call people stupid, because we're not smart enough to know that. So
Yeah, and you told me
Words-
that last
words
last
matter.
Sunday. I'm not.
that's right.
I begged you
I'll
not
be
to
telling
use
it every
that.
time you say it.
I begged you not to say that about
If you
yourself a
say it
year ago,
500
Damien.
times, I'm going to tell you 500 times.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
And do
500
it again
times.
because
don't
I'm a
use the
slow
word. If you
learner.
use it 500 times.
That
I should say that
That's
I'm not a
different.
slow learner.
That's
I'm a
different
great
than being
learner.
stupid.
That's self-defeating.
Well, you could. There's nothing wrong with being a slow learner.
Nope.
I like, I'm deliberate. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ken described kind of how we see the world and we don't actually see it. Our brain makes up something that we think represents it. But, I was listening to your comments Sunday as attentively as I'm capable of doing, thinking that I heard every single word. And then I went back and watched the replay, and I think I got about 10% of it the first time around. Of course, it was going so fast I couldn't take notes. But during the replay, I was able to pause it and think about it and re-listen to it and make sure I understood it. And I would estimate the first time around, I might have got 10% of it.
Yep. Yeah.
That's pretty normal.
Hey, Damien.
When I listened to the hour-long podcast, my turn. I did the hour-long podcast with Andrew Barry.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and listen to all that because that was stream of consciousness, and there were a lot of things I said for the first time in that way that was really instructive. So it's normal to experience that.
It's very informative to go back and listen to yourself when you're in stream of consciousness, because it's your subconscious that has taken over. And that is just scary. Sometimes I've had people in the hospice game, people come back to me years later and they're like, oh my God, what you said was just this or that. And it was great. And thank you so much. I have no recollection as to what I had said. What I was going to say, Damien, is please read the basic execution 1 and 2, not as an answer, but as a framework to frame your questions for Phil and Griff. Maybe. Some of that was written with, actually, I had you in mind when I was writing some of it. So hopefully it'll speak to you, and not in a bad way, in a way that says, hey, this is hard enough without beating yourself up. Quit doing that. You're just making it harder for you. If I could remove those self-deprecating phrases from your vocabulary, I would do it. Because I think you're a great guy. I think you don't need me, pumping you up, but you have learned, and you learn at a very accelerated rate. So,
But it's gonna require, and I'm aware of it, a lot of effort on my part. And I will share it because at this point it doesn't matter. But I had two parents who, throughout my adult life, pushed me down, telling me that I was basically a no good, that the only thing I was good for is to clean toilets. Now that they're gone, I have to be there and I have to reinvent myself. And I'm willing to do the challenge. So,
dude, the only one limiting you is you. I'm not going to do it. I got enough crap on my own plate, dude.
Yeah, I know.
But if you want somebody to stand next to you and say, yeah, look at all that shoveling you're doing. Yeah, because I got a whole bunch of shoveling and I can appreciate it. Can't feel what you're doing, but I can appreciate it. That's what you'll get from me. An appreciation for the process.
But I want to thank
so I have us at
Ken and Bill
till.
for listening.
I need to have us check out here.
Yep, we got to check out and check in, gentlemen.
Yep, we got some stuff to do here. Yep. So good work. I'm going to hit the tone, and we'll take about a 5-minute break so this thing will process. And
see you in 5, boys.
Good work, and yep. Ciao for now.
Aho. Ciao for now.
Aho. Take care.